So first of all, thank you, TMSBA. We actually now are back having coffee at our coffee. So thank you, Larry, for bringing us some treats, and which allows us, I guess, to say that we're I don't want to say we're 100% back to normal yet, but we're close. I mean, which really actually been nice. There's a lot of concern by several parents when the mask mandate came off, because their children either have family members or kids have chosen that their kids would be kind of psyched out by the other kids. We talked about it in assembly, and I haven't heard a word. Maybe two kids in particular who, because of medical issues, have to wear masks. And I've asked those two kids several times, how's it going? And they feel like the kids are really being supportive of them, and all the other kids wear masks. So I'm kind of happy the kids have accepted that for some people it's maybe the new normal, but that we're getting back as far as we can to normal. You see these cardboard cities that were created by our houses. You see that was originally the wall that's behind you was originally set up for February, was Black History Month, and the kids did some things to recognize some famous people. Now it's being transferred over to women's empowerment, so I think it's National Women's Month. So again, we're just doing something where the kids pick the types of people they want to look at. And I also want to tell you that I want to take zero credit for any of this. The teachers have really, really stepped up. We don't have a middle school activities director. Mrs. Lewinsky does a lot of it. Mrs. Lena does a lot of it, and together they do it all. So I really want to thank my teachers because they've been incredible. Student council is going to try to get some more events. They're asking now, as we're in March, to plan a trip to an amusement park. I think it may be a little late. It's spring break coming, because you really need at least a month to get everything together. So I'm meeting with them today, but I'm going to give some alternate ideas for activities or local if they can't get to California on their amusement park trip. I told them, yeah, it's a great idea. We always did it actually this coming weekend, but it did the weekend. We always did it on the Sunday before Founders Day, so they can get back at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, have Monday off. The teacher and chaperone would have Monday off. So they were a little late to the party. That's what sometimes the kids are trying to plan things. That's what happens. Sports, theater, are going full swing, even though there's not going to be an on-stage performance. They're actually filming their performance. Because when they started doing it, we still weren't sure where we stood with stage performances. Mrs. Carlson's incredible. And I know this weekend I heard they actually had a MG out here, right? The red MG car, and part of their filming was done in the MG. No, we did not rent it. It belongs to Mrs. Carlson's husband, Kevin. So, but some kind of really cool stuff they're doing, and I hear it's going really well. And again, what's really great about it is, as they did in the fall, the kids aren't just reading scripts. They wrote so much. That to me is sort of the play in the fall. That was the greatest part, because the kids had so much to do. We know our kids can read. We know they can sing and act too. But the fact that they're now also providing the content is really cool. And sports, we have a bunch of teams in the playoffs. We bring the police to the girls' game tonight. Those don't know, we had an incident more with it. I mean, it was like a football game turned basketball. Referees out of control. I heard between that jail, I heard 5 or 8 people, something like that, from the gymnasium were ejected over not just one game, over the whole course of a series of games. So obviously the officials didn't have control. I got out of school playing tonight. The parents were out of control, especially when carrying a baby that was actually cursing at our children. Mr. Buchanan will be there tonight. I will try, but I can't be there as I have a family member. So if I can, I will be there. This quarter that we're coming out of, is always, every year, get COVID, forget everything else, it's always the toughest one. It is because there's no end to it. What I mean is it ends this Friday. But, the first quarter is short, and kids are still excited. Second quarter ends with the break, end of the first semester. Third quarter doesn't end with spring break. So now it ends, and they come back to school, well, they're getting a long weekend, but they come back to school Wednesday. So to them, it's not. So to them, it's one continuous thing until spring break. So what I heard parents do this time is when the workouts come in, they did great. They did great. Hey, keep it up. What did you do to do this well? Let's keep that up. If they didn't, okay, what are now your goals to finish out strong? And I always try to liken it to a race. A school year is a marathon. It is not a sprint. Okay, so now you get that fourth quarter, you have to have that little kick left. So, because when we come back from spring break, don't tell your children this, but here's stuff. Now, we moved ERBs, and we'll talk about ERBs in a few minutes ago. We moved ERBs to the winter, so that used to be take a whole week out of the day, which was, for us, May was exams and ERBs. So we moved ERBs to January. So that's made May a little more palatable, a little easier, because we have active awards, we have all these different assemblies at the end of the year, with graduation coming up. So there's a lot of things that I want to make May a little less crowded. There are other things that I'll talk about with ERPs that you want. So set if the child thinks something, what their goal is either stay where they are, or okay, what are you going to do to push through this last quarter? Between this during spring break, you'll have a little chance to get energy in the middle of it, but you can't start off and then after spring break try to get back up. The curve will be too steep. So it's and again, this is not a COVID thing. I try to push for years. It's Nevada, it's Las Vegas, it's not Meadows. That back east, they actually do spring break middle of the semester. We don't do it they do it like college. They don't do it tied to the holidays. So we're tied a lot. And unfortunately, because the biggest players in the public schools here, some families have to do it. So something that I know we discuss about the school. It would be a bold move. And I'm not sure we're ready to do a lot of bold moves. So ERB, so I know some of you have 8th grade students, so your children didn't take ERBs this year. So 2 years ago, we switched to the upper school students taking the SSAT. The SSAT is the same test that the high school students take. So the reason we have our 8th graders taking it is because they're going into upper school, and this then gives the upper school saying, okay, these are the kids who are applying to our school. These are our kids. We want kids like our kids, academically. We don't want kids who aren't much weaker than our kids. Of course, we'll take stronger, but we have a lot of strong kids. So we want to make sure that they're in the same playing field as our kids. And it gives us a kind of, the SSAT is a little more comparable to the SAT, which they will eventually take. And as we start to think of when they get to high school, the SAT and the SAT, and where that goes. So here there was without pointing fingers, there was an agreement that we actually moved in January. A couple of weeks before the lower school decided they didn't want to change. That causes us some fallback, and I told the headmaster he needs to make a decision for next year because now, the kids who took the ERB this year actually took their ERB from last year. And that was going to be a 1 year renewing, it was going to be a 1 year thing. Now for middle school, it's a 2 year thing. Because so the lower school kids will take a new one, middle school kids, so it can't be separate. And I tried to explain that, but I couldn't get people to understand that. So we need to have so going back to the ERB stuff, first of all, if it's the first time your child is taking the ERB, it's a snapshot. It is not a picture. Because any test, by the way, is a snapshot, not a picture. If you're taking 5 tests in a quarter, and one's a 60 and the next one's a 90, that's because you were more prepared for that, or you understood that topic more than you understood this topic. I ended up finishing when I was in Nashville. Nashville, actually, I did this climate change. Just kidding. I didn't think Nashville got that much snow. We were there. It was the first day. I guess in like 5 years I looked at it, it snowed, and it was a big snow. And we were taking the ERP, we had to close the shades, the windows, the kids were like, it's snowing, and so of course we actually marked out and we saw that day was a dip in their ERPs because they were distracted. A kid can easily, it doesn't have that often, it gets off the numbering. And when you go, wait a minute, you've been a 7 for 3 years, now they're a 3, what happened? Okay, guess what? They're probably close to 7 because you had those 3 years. So 1 year doesn't make it, and one stay on doesn't make it. So in other words, they were 5, they went to a 4. Well, guess what? The difference of one question, they could have gotten one more question right the year before. It could be that close. I can, if anybody wants to talk about it, I can report scale scores and see how far they were from their previous score, and see if it really was significant. Anything more than one stay on, then we look at it more significant about why. And there are lots of different reasons why ERP scores can stagger. Sometimes it's a learning issue. When I see a kid who every year has numbers all over the place, so it's 4, 7, 3, the next year it's 7, 3, 2, then it's usually a sign of some sort of attention issue. It doesn't mean I'm not a diagnostician, it's just 37 years. So you see these because obviously they're having trouble focusing for too long a period of time. That's right. But again, so I tell everybody, don't take any of these tests as, oh my God, my child's not going to Harvard. It's a snapshot. When you put together those 3 years, that's a picture. And people there's a lot of misconception about the ERP. And there's a quantitative section, and this is quantitative reasoning and verbal reasoning. Now, I would be terribly not politically correct at this moment. Back in the old days, that was actually called quantitative ability, verbal ability. Those two sections are designed more as IQ level than they are achievement. The rest of the sections, the math 1, 2, or the algebra 1, or the or the verbal, the reading combo, those are more achievement. So what you really want as a parent, when you look at a history of learning, if the child's got a quantitative ability of a 7, and you want their math to be 7, 8, or 9, because that means they're performing like themselves or better than themselves. Okay, it doesn't matter if they're a 5. It's like, oh my God, my child! I get this parents come in. My child's a 5. Well, first of all, if 5 at the school, that means they're 5 based in the private school kids in the country. That's public schools. Independent IN, which is all I look at, the independent school board. That means they're an average private school kid in this country. It's not a bad place to be. So please, don't kick yourself like, oh my God, my child's never going anywhere. If those other scores under those are lower than 5, that's the concern, not the concern about the child being 5. Because you want the child to perform like themselves or better than themselves. And a lot of people, a lot of educators I know, don't understand this, the whole concept of ERPs. The other thing is, ERPs are not a high stakes test. It's not the only thing that ERPs do, and right now, they only qualified 8th graders this year. Used to be all the kids in elementary school, some elementary school kids, for the Center for Bright and Talented Kids. And to qualify for the Center for Bright and Talented Students, it might be living in your organization or your organization, but you have to have a 9 stay 9 in any one of those categories in the national norms. We tend to maybe have 5 kids in the entire middle school we don't qualify. So it's not a big deal. So again, that's the only other if anybody is so interested in that program, that's the only high stakes part. It gives you a little picture of your child. It gives us a curricular profile. So in other words, we can go back and say, gee, our kids did more than the national norm of independent school kids in capitalization. So my English teacher looked at it and go, okay, why? One of my favorite ones was math. And by the way, we were above every category in the national. They didn't need the pencil. Our kids are above So that's great. So that's not an issue. But our math teachers, and it made me so happy because it's not that we don't teach to a test. We don't teach we don't make up a little fit a test. And when Miss Silverman was here with Miss Codewise, I brought up, I said, it's one area that we were slightly below, and they go, yeah, we do that next week. That was after that was in their curriculum. The week after, they said, you want us to change it? I go, no. It was important to me that we knew why. That's all that mattered. We knew our kids were going to get that information. Again, I don't care. We're not teaching to the test. We teach to make sure, okay, why? I would have been not upset, but I would have been concerned. They would have been concerned if they said, we don't know why we're kidding. That happened to me when I was in Nashville. When my math teacher said, she was like almost crying. She was such a dedicated teacher. She couldn't understand why her kids get so quickly on one of the breakdown subcategories. And so I actually went and read the question. And she was an older teacher. They changed the terminology. She taught the concept, but there was a term that she never used to the kids. The next year, she didn't change how she taught the lesson right there. She changed the term. It was superior again. So so we do not just have the kids take it because of the drug. And that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to move to January. Because I always believe, like, out of sight, out of mind. And our math teachers, our science teachers looked at it. But now all our teachers are looking at projected results to say, hey, okay, well, I understand now why that child is struggling. Obviously, they have some writing issues. Let me see how I can. Let me go look and see where they're weak and where I can say, okay, their grammar, this child hasn't gotten the grammar down. So how can I supplement them with grammar? So we actually use it to benefit the kids and to benefit the world. And again, I'm not saying that it's not done at the end of the year. It's just, it's another teacher, usually it's another grade, and it's just going on with the curriculum. So now the teachers have a whole semester to try to help with more data. That's all it is. Any other questions before I move on to next turn?
So if you're doing like you gotta be popular or you gotta be exposed knowledge and that's just kind of like feeling with that information. So maybe just something where everybody can understand the data.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. And say, I always invite parents to the letter. Let me sit down with the ERPs, and I usually get about one call a year. So I always think, but I'd love to. It was actually, I remember it was my first professional development. So how many years ago in New York City when I taught was a conference on ERPs. Now it's changed since then, greatly. So yes, I would be glad to do it. Thank you for the suggestion. So I know we have several eighth-grade parents here, so this may or may not care. So going forward, and I know sports probably everybody knows this so far, for sure that the middle school is expanding next year. We are going to 70 students. Well, we're going to a maximum of 70 students in grade. We do not have to get to 70 students. We have a number that will pay for all of our expansion costs, which I think we are easily achieving because we had, this is really spurred to me from last year. We couldn't wait about last year. And Mrs. Smith was here. She looks at all the files along with me when the files come in. We left, when I say, and this is sound only in sense of what I'm saying, a lot of good kids on the team next year, which we didn't have room for. And we're not, and nobody's telling me to, well, maybe not, so we have to take care of the kid. No, we need to expand and we've already accepted enough kids to cover that cost of expansion. So what happens expansion has affected kids right now? I think it's mostly benefit. And I'll tell you, I'll start with the negatives. The negatives, the hall's going to be more crowded than they already are. And it may get even a little more competitive to be on the top team, especially if you have 10 more kids. I think that's really the negatives. The positives are that we're now going to have in every academic subject 3 teachers. So the chances of a child having the same teacher year after year after year will decrease immensely. Because our plan is, and this is a little different in math and foreign language, because we do a little leveling, so we could somebody would do 6th grade English, somebody would do 7th grade English, somebody would do 8th grade English, somebody would do 6th grade English. 7th grade. And for those of you who were here last year, I guess the only staffing change I will announce in this small staffing addition that I'll announce is that I think we will have the best history department of any school in the country because Mr. Neely is returning. So I know the kids really like Mr. Neely. I'm not sure yet. It's going to be 6 or 7. This is what?
Oh, it's gonna be so long. I
Yeah,
know.
this is loving hand. Mrs. Randall, but I tell you, Mrs. Randall is a nationally known person who made what she's done with children. Mr. Neely is finishing his doctorate, and so is Mrs. Lee. Neither of them finished the doctorate because they want to go to high school. They want to stay in middle school. There's not a lot of middle schools that have as many people with pending doctorates and doctorates as we do. And they're not to say that degrees would go, I would learn, they go to Harvard. Good. I said I don't think I would ever hire another Harvard graduate educator because I found that brilliant people, but they can't talk to 12-year-olds. Okay, so these people all do really well with young children, with younger children this age. So that's what the amazing things about all these people. So I'm really happy about it. We have one retirement, which will be announced with Mr. Brennan, and one other change that we decided to make. We've already hired another science teacher for next year, who I think is going to be incredible. He'll probably go to 6th grade because his degree is in geology, so it fits actually. We've never had somebody who truly had that specialty in 6th grade. We've always had somebody who's in biology or other areas. There aren't that many earth science people who aren't doing environmental science at high school level. So I'm really excited to be a science teacher. And so those are the new hires that are done now. We're still looking for a couple of other hires for the expansion, but we already had 3 Spanish. It's Bodie, Ms. Jarvis, and Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jackson promised me she's not getting pregnant again in the near future. I don't know if she controls that sort of thing, and I guess she does. And then we already had 3 math, so we don't need to hire those areas. Physically, with the expansion of the upper school, Mr. Mysick is moving to the new facility, so we will gain that classroom back. And Mrs. Carlson is actually going to make a change also. She's going to be in the middle school full time in English. And so she'll be staying in her room. It's actually a classroom with desks and a real big English room. She will not be doing theater over here. So those are all positive. Also with those positives, I have a teacher teach 1 grade. Every teacher is getting the assignment of their 4 classes, and the end for us is, in a lot of cases, electives, adding more electives. And we're in desperate need of another science elective. Mr. Trujillo's team is full. For those who don't know, they were in Reno last weekend, and the division that they're in had a couple of middle schoolers all year, and there's like a JV high schoolers. And they went up to a 7th grade team and an 8th grade team. And the 7th grade team, I think, was actually took 3rd in the division. So they came 3rd amongst high school teams because none of the other middle schools in the state made it into the tournament. So that's pretty impressive. And now it's become such a big program because it goes from 7 through high school. Because when Mr. Trujillo does it 7th and 8th, it's picked up by Mrs. Trujillo in 9th. So the robotics and the science program and those types of things are really expanding. So I need another science elective. So we'll hopefully add something like another hands-on building type, but not something roads or something in that realm. So as we're hiring, that's one of the things. I've had different teachers in Spanish come up with some very clever electives. Again, they're not more homework electives. They're not, they're electives. They're real classes. They're not clubs, but they're also not as work intensive as the academic classes. So all the students will benefit by having these extra teachers being able to offer more electives. Somebody like Dr. Garvey, the junior class in the National Honor Society and quiz ball and all those things. That's his act. That's enough act. Mr. Slavinsky, who is in charge of all of these activities that are going on in the middle school, that's his act. So, so it's not so either they're going to be taking on more roles. Some teachers may have a fifth class, because again, especially those classes who bring students up high level, it's not the size of the class. One of my goals in the expansion was, as a private school for a long time, our teachers, and I know that people came from other private schools, it wasn't their class load that was too heavy, it was their number of students that was too heavy. Most private schools are somewhere between 70 and 80 students. Half of our teachers had to have 100 students plus every year. So now everybody will be maxed out academically at 70. So you think about it, I don't think that if you've been in this system, you always see the pile of papers that are on desks. If you can see those alternate rights on it. That's what you want. That's what we want as students. We don't want a check. Thank you, turn to the assignment. We want, this is where you need to improve this paragraph. This, the suggestions and having to do the rewrites. That's what we want. That's how they get better. And so our teachers have always done that, but it's at a cost. At a cost of some of exhaustion. And so now they're going to be able to do that. So I promise nobody less classes. So I need a fifth class because that's the levels I need. And teachers know that. They're great with it. But it's just so the number of kids contact. If you think about math, the mathematics of this, which is what I thought about when I did my presentation to the board, is we've been locked out at 60 full, 3 sections. That's 20, except for a COVID exception that was made. Those kids are Canadian kids who went to the 21st. That will go away. We're going back to 2020 as a maximum. But if you divide 70, even if we get to 70 class, there's no guarantee we will. But 70 divided by 4 now, minimally, is 17.5. So we'll have, so now does that mean we don't give one class of 20? No. It could be a class of 20 or a class of 15, depending on how the level the kids are. But they won't go past 20. So we're going to be in a lot better shape. The other thing is, for me, is if we have these levels, if Johnny needs to go from A to B, I had to move Sally from B to A because the classes were all full. It's 20, we're locked. And a lot of times that's impossible. Leveling off math and leveling off Spanish. So it gives us the ability now to place the kids better and meet their needs. That's what it's all about. So I'm very excited about that. We have to add a few lockers where the benches are on one side of the building, all there. But everything else is planned. Usually all come in here, all do fit here. So those are free. There's one other effect that I think is also beneficial, especially, and it's not going to get beneficial. Well, it'll help the classes that are already here. Most of the kids are here. And Mrs. Larson, the high school, will tell you, is when they go from that 60 to that 75, they add, and they have some nutrition, they're adding 20 plus new students at the school. It changes the class. And a lot of these kids have been together for a long time. And it's time for the new invigoration of the class. And so we will be getting that now into our 6th grade, starting, and this year will be spat throughout. Again, after this year, it's after the first maybe 1 or 2 years, depending on our enrollment, because again, I'm not forcing the issue. Thank God I have enough quality to cover what I promised that we get covered. So I'm not going to say, well, if I get 30, I can take these 4 kids, but they're not the right kids. I'm not going to do that. So it's going to change some of the atmosphere, and I think that's going to be mostly for the positive. That's what all the indications from the upper school teachers. Sometimes our kids get a little complacent. They kind of feel like this is, I'll do it this way. And from what I understand, a lot of times when new kids come to school, you feel like, oh my God, look what I've got now. And our kids kind of take it for granted. I think that's a better way to say it. So, the kids who are saying, because a lot of them are coming from local environments that aren't as strong as ours. There aren't very many local environments that are strong as ours academically. So these kids come in. And it's funny because actually, you can relate to that from when I was in Nashville. we were a Canadian school in Nashville. We did not have foreign language. We did not have Spanish at all. And we had French starting in 7th grade. So we did a long-term study, and the high schools that our kids were all matriculating to, the top high schools there, were telling us our kids are actually going further, starting foreign language in 7th grade, than their kids who had started in kindergarten because they really wanted to do it. And the other kids like, oh, another year of foreign language. So they really, and our kids were actually going to the higher AP. Now, I don't have I want to be clear, that was a very small one school service. I don't want to say that I have lots of literature that can prove that theory, but it does make sense to me too. You go, wow, this is exciting to do, and so they get excited about it. Questions?
So high school, what do you think grades?
Now, well, high school goes to 75, so they'll do that. We'll still have attrition, so they'll still be added. But at this moment, no. I think what will happen is they will see where we are to do it, where we have to build it. I mean, pretty well. I mean, they can go, that building, if I was in this building, was built to accommodate up to about 300 students. I know they had a classroom like 300, pretty tight in there. So right now, no, I think that if our attrition from 7th to 8th and 9th grade is limited, and there are a lot of quality candidates, of course they would probably think about doing it. And again, this wasn't a business decision. This was something that we as the middle school went to the headmaster and then to the board and asked for, because we just saw all these kids and I look around, we want some of these kids. And so right now, I think in returning, because again, we had 63 in this year's 7th grade. We lost down 1 or 2. One, as last I showed maybe the second one, but as of 2 weeks ago, we lost 1 student. We already had a student being promised a spot to. So if we didn't expand, any 8th grader applied to our school for next year would have been told no. We couldn't even take and that's what really happened last year. Until the late decision made, we went through the admission season in 1st grade not being able to take any new students. Which, by the way, it's a good place to be. It's not like a negative, it's a positive. But it also gives us the ability to, this isn't going to be so the ad will eventually mostly be in 6th grade. Because once we get 70 coming through, once we take, it'll be, right, in 7th grade, you leave, okay, we'll have a school list, and it'll be, so we'll have, 2 kids leave, so it's going to be the same kind of thing, so it's not going to be like they'll be taking in 32 kids every year in school. It'll be 10 eventually. I don't think that's, by the way, we're looking at applications. I don't know if this just the last inquiry. So inquiry is just a couple of weeks old. Just the whole school. So I think it's close to 300. And we're not into the panic season yet. What I mean by the panic season is when parents start realizing that the school they're at is not fulfilling what they promised. So panic sets in. We get a lot of those calls in March, April, even June. And it's nice to say, well, they can apply for next year. They're not filling spots. I could have filled everything. Concern? Sorry
for that. So our kids will go into the new Spanish, but do science or not?
No. They will for the elective.
Okay.
So competitive science will be over there. Because part of that new science field is basically I haven't seen how to exactly look, but it's kind of going to be like a shop. So there's that's where all the tools and everything would be. So Mr. Hill's class, which they're building all the time, will be over there. And that's what I want to see a couple of other types of those classes. So at this age, they love to, hammer things, bend things, break things, right? So those classes.
Okay, I also have a 6th grade.
I know.
Yeah. I'm worried. I just don't feel like he's as prepared as being over. If there are like progress reports for like the sisters, like, or is he just, I mean, he's here. I know he's a good grade and he should make some transition, but I am worried. So what is like protocol as far as, yeah, he's falling behind, with like when is the time?
Well, first of all, I mean, and again, our teachers at this point, you know, not to hold your other student on high esteem, but you probably don't get a lot of project reports.
Right.
Our teachers at this point in the year have sent out over 700 project reports. So our teachers, right, I mean, those of you who get them know, if you're not getting them, it means your kids are straight A. And even those they're getting, they get a lot of, hey, great kid. So our teachers send a lot of project reports. So as soon as they have concerns, they go. One of the things that I would say it hasn't gotten as far as us getting the date together yet, but those of you who had ninth graders, there's before that Monday at school starts, Friday is orientation. Usually that Thursday or Wednesday, the upper school is having ninth grade orientation. And they're going to continue that. I actually got to Mrs. Larson yesterday because the middle school teachers want to do that same thing with sixth graders. They want a sixth grade orientation. So we are going, so actually it's on my agenda for our administrative meeting this afternoon to bring that up and see if we can solidify time, because it's the teacher profession, it's the teacher week before school, so we have to coordinate the whole school, when we have professional development things going on, so but the middle school teacher said, we want to do this, we want to teach them how to open their locker before, we want to teach them how to keep their agenda, and that's in the other. We're not going back in sixth grade. The order for sixth the sixth and seventh. Because eighth grade, we're going to try to do some more transition. In sixth and seventh grade, we're going back to agendas. Because we really have, again, and this is not going to happen next year. It's probably something like it's going to happen maybe the year after, so we can younger children. We really going to get away from that BYOD program and go into a program where minimally you still may have to buy a computer, but it'll be from us. It will be maintained by our staff, so if it breaks, we have it here. And it would also be controlled better by us. So in other words, the teacher can sit, it would question more, because in eighth grade, when they get taken with it, that's from how I understand the program. But we started these talks last month with Mr. Barber. He has some brilliant ideas. Really, this gentleman knows his business so well. I'm saying that on the camera, Mr. Barber. But he really does. So he's got some ideas that he's going to present to the head of school and to the board eventually. But I think it's going to show that it's not going to take anything away from the kids. It's going to give us more control, give the parents more control. Because the amount of time these kids are spending on these things, it's not getting any better, it's getting worse. And we're just as bad as those. But it's such a distraction. And we've told our teachers not that we're trying to get away from it now. It's their life. So I can't say we're not going to use technology, that we're not fast that you can do this, but we also know that they can't have it in front of them all the time. I mean, anybody who come in at 7:45 in the morning, and all the kids are this all together, and they're all like this together in circles. Right? So they don't talk to each other. Actually, I say, and I'm sorry to say this, more girls than boys. Boys are, at least the sixth grade boys are still in the combat. Okay, so that's a good thing to me. That's where they belong. And ping pong, we're going to become the Olympic ping pong school. But so those are all called things. So we are heading that way. We've told teachers when the opportunity is there to choose between a book and a program, to go for the book. But it doesn't mean we also want to go back to that looking 100 pounds of books back and forth. So sometimes the greatest thing is both. Is to a program where they have the ability to have, or for us to have one extra set of books, classroom sets, and then they have the classroom, they keep their book at home. So we're really working on that. I think it's part of working with families that we have to try to get them a little more away as much as possible from the devices and constant. I promise myself I wasn't going to talk about technology today. That's how I talk about every coffee. This is probably the thing that has changed education of kids the most in the last 15 years. It is probably.
Can you talk about walking the phones up, like how to space do they have to put their phone in the day or anything like that?
Yeah, we did this. Well, so when I came back to the middle school, that was actually a policy. They had to put their phones in a basket. And did you know that only 2 kids in the middle school had phones? I'm not trying to be, that was true. That's how many kids would literally 2 kids would put phones in the basket. The problem becomes, I think, to answer your question, we need to be better as a school about probably being more conscientious, and what I hate to say, we're punishing about them having their phones. The policy is it's supposed to be their office. Now, I will go back to saying, but every time I've taken a phone, you guys heard this before, every time I've taken a phone away from a child, they've been texting me to be with a parent. During the
Oh, I would love to share. Let's say that. My husband will text me and his, I was really and so parents are communicating purposes.
One of the things that we have talked about in social media, working our class school is you have, for lack of a better word, actually not specifically phones, but it looks like a shoe, you know, when you say that, and some itty true, the kids put their phones in there. But for me, they're not supposed to carry them around. So that's actually encouraging them to carry them around. We just have to get better with saying, I know speak for those ones. We have to get better about with in their pockets. You know, it's also such a sensitive thing because when you're looking at, and again, just a crazy problem, when a young lady has in her back pocket, and I say, I see your phone in your back pocket, I've had girls say, why are you doing it? I mean, that's how crazy the world has gotten. But I do agree with you, and I think that we just have to get better. Now, I have gotten to the point this year, because my policy with the kids is, you caught using your phone during the day, the first time comes to my desk, I pick them up from me. The second time, the parent has to get it. I have had my first time parent have to get their phone from a child. So I think we need to just get better as a school. There's so many issues about, where you lock them up, these cases you can buy that actually lock them up. And I think that, right.
Because that's what the kids have, correct? Like policing it and asking over and over, and sending a communication. I mean, really, probably they all talk to each other.
I agree with that, and
I think,
and I really appreciate you saying that. And again, I'm not trying to put it back in the parents, and again, Linda Smith's taking the calls. I would say now 80%, maybe tell me if I'm wrong. I can accept the criticism. Kids get sick in school. Kids get sick in school. Kids have gotten sick in school. I used to get sick in school. Okay? 80% of the time, say 70% of the time, the parent shows up and we don't know nothing about it. Because they've gone to the bathroom, they text their parent, the parents come.
If their phones are away, but the texting is not.
Right. Exactly.
And if their phones are away, they're not saying you shouldn't do it. Like, and I'm probably guilty of too, like you said, every message you don't think they're at school, but if they're texting me on their computers.
And that will be the benefit of going to other system computers. We control the computers, and Mr. Alex may or may not know this. I'm not trying to put him on the spot, but I'm thinking that if we have the computers and we can see through program what you're doing, we could also see if they're texting, correct? Would that be correct, you know? If we would do the program, we would have all the computers. We would all.
So as we go forward, vice management, now, vice management, block. And for example, you get max, block base management, and just use max.
Yeah, so we would know since because that's another thing. Looking at this new way of doing computers, it's because we couldn't do it with the computers anymore.
Yeah.
We would be controlling it. So again, this isn't all trying. I want to be clear. All the things that we're trying to do aren't trying to stop them from being kids. We're trying to give them the time they need to focus That's what it is. It's not, kids are kids, and, if you're going, their distraction, well, my distraction was Zoom. That's, a lot of adults, I sit in meetings, I'm like, oh, that's okay. That was our distraction prior to computers. So they still have that distraction, but the computers is such a big one. I had a student who was one of our sixth graders 2 weeks ago. He got in trouble for the second time for actually playing a video game in a classroom. Got caught. His mother, teacher said no progress report about it. Mother was 100% supportive of the school. Say he's going to learn the consequences for this. Mom was great, but when I sat down there, he literally starts crying because I can't help this. And this thing is, it would be, to me, liking somebody, and again, so anybody kids, I apologize, it may be a terrible amount of putting this bottle in front of an alcoholic all day and saying you can't touch it, or you can't see it. I mean, that's what it is for some of these kids. And I have to tell you, when it comes to the video games, and this is just being making generalizations. Okay, so please, I'm not being sexist or anything. Boys have to be worse than the girls. When it comes to the texting and chatting, the girls tend to be worse than the boys. This is just generalizations. There are plenty of boys who are in these chat groups. And that's the other thing that I encourage you. And I know it's tough because I have two daughters. And they're trying to become independent, you're trying to keep their trust and everything else. There's all these things. But there's also a thing of who owns the phone, who's the parent. And I've had too many discussions with parents where I thought, because the parents who check will bring me the chats. And I will let parents know what their child is saying. And the parents say, well, I'm not willing to check the phones. I don't want that relationship with my child. No. I'm not criticizing them, please. But there's big things going on. And it's just figuring out with your child how we're going to do this, I think is important. And I think that there are things going on. We've had multiple kids who have been in relationships with boys and girls in other states. You hear about that a lot, you go, not our kids. It's our kids. They're kids. Okay? If they're on that internet, if they're on that device, they're doing that. I just read the paper, some guy was arrested in something like Roblox, which is an elementary game, right? It was just a paper yesterday and the day before, which is basically an elementary game. And they can chat. I don't know as much. My children were older, past Roblox, so I don't know much about it. Mr. Ferguson explained to me once that you can pay to be in chat rooms, and he made sure he paid and make sure his son, you can only be in this chat room because everybody can be identified. There are lots of kids I know in the general chat rooms who are still in elementary school. So, it's unfortunately, you probably wouldn't let your child cross I-95, and yet you become so comfortable with these devices and stuff, we kind of let them run all over this highway without any supervision. So, you give me a dirty look like I'm saying something.
No, I was just thinking about Discord. You know what Discord is?
No, what's Discord?
Discord is a platform that they can chat with. Well, it's like
You guys hear?
you go into AOL chat room, like, at the beginning. It's kind of like a chat room that they can make rooms for themselves amongst their peers, but anyone can join all over too. So they'll make connections with people that have a name that is notifying them that we have students who have connected with strangers and who have been brought out by adult strangers. So Discord, like especially, it scares me. And I feel like your kids are on Discord is something to be aware of. And I've been like, I'm going to avoid Discord when I'm here.
I actually have a Discord. I know very little about it. Why did I have to download Discord? Because I have so many students, I had to check up stuff.
Right.
That's why I have Discord. I never used it. I never chatted with anybody personally. Discord, from what I understand, and some people younger may know more, it's kind of started out, or may still be kind of the gamers chat, but it is really expanding now to become, and it is the one that, for whatever reason, has become the one that kids feel the most freedom to do whatever they want to do. I don't think it has a lot of, where you like Facebook or don't like Facebook, or if you've ever had the pleasure. I have not, thank God yet, been in Facebook jail. But at least there's some level of monitoring, whether you like the monitoring, agree with it or not. Gravity Discord has
And our middle schoolers are using it, it's something that's pretty common.
because of gaming, so it's one that I keep an eye on if you see. Yeah. The other thing is histories, VPNs, learn about those, and the kids actually know how to get hidden networks. I'll answer what I should say. Is, kids know that my biggest thing, my biggest thing that I hate is lying. It's like, I can deal with a kid who messes up their kids. And he says, okay, yeah, they know, so, I'll walk in here during the study hall, and, I know right away the kid's sitting against the wall, and I'll walk over, and they see them. And it's like, okay, what we just on, of course, now they're on Veracross. My homework. No, what we just done? Oh, nothing. Okay, can we see history? I'll take it. And I have not had to personally check a history yet. Because as soon as they say, let me check your history, okay. And so, if you ever really want to have fun, go look at the histories. They do not clear them, so you only get 1 or 2 shots at it, because then they'll clear it every time they think you're near. They don't like to clear their histories, because they like to go back into the histories so we can get back to where they were. So it's just, again, it's unfortunate. And it's, again, the greatest tool in our generation, but it's comes with a lot of issues. There's a reason why, by the way, most of your kids, most of the 6th graders, are actually in violation of the law. Because in signing up for most of these apps, you have to say you're 13 or older. So if your child has to lie when they're signing up. Of course, there's no way of checking. There's no way of you or them of being, it's their legal disclaimer, because that's what the government said. They had to be 14. So, but all these things they're signing up for, very, very few of them will sign up for without being at least 13. So as a parent, at least, if you want them off and they're not 13, you have a great excuse. Sorry, you can't have that. I'm going to follow the law. I'm sorry.
My question is Snapchat.
That, and the thing with Snap too is, it disappears, and there's also kids will go in there because they know that their parents can't access that deep into the conversation itself, back to a conversation, and it disappears too. So there's pretty much only Snapchat. It's texting is like obsolete. It's pretty much only Snapchat.
And by the way, one of the other things that I heard is a parent too, is they went and looked at the number of minutes their child was texting and realized it was ridiculous. So they gave them a maximum number.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just giving suggestions. Tell anybody how to run their
Yeah, I
house.
can tell you how to tell Snapchat that they give they give each other, or if you take your kids by the way, they're really into keeping up their streaks, which is so stupid. That's cool. So they give their password to a friend to keep up their streaks. But now you've got some other kid in your kid's Snapchat, which I think is totally dangerous. So I make my kids, I have the password. They don't even know what the password is. And then when you reach set the password, it sends a text to their phone and it says, you have this amount of time to change the password or it's permanently changed. So you have to hold on to the phone long enough to that goes away 15 minutes. So now only you can get to their Snapchat, they can pass now, but they can't pass out their Snapchat. They're not sending another one, but another account. But that's one that I've done. I'm like, because my daughter lets someone in their Snapchat number streaks. I'm like, wow.
Insider trading,
The joke that I say to the kids, I take to the 5th and 6th graders when I go down and explain to them not to give your password to anybody. And I say, if you do me a favor, when you home, send me your parents' password to the bank account too. I mean, it's not like, because I tell the kids that's what you're doing. Because when you let somebody else go on your computer with your address, I said, but I have to call Alex over there and say, Alex, or somebody's done something bad on the internet and try to figure out who it is, and he can trace it back. Well, this is the computer that did it. But the kids, that was not on my computer.
Yeah.
Well, somebody was, and so they don't understand that they're actually responsible for that because they're doing that. It's just like giving out. You try to emphasize all the time. Keep your password. The same one I do every year. She knows where I'm going. The locker combination. It's like I do think every year. I mean, it's kindergarten. They give them their locker combinations, and then 2 months into, they have a fight. And it's like, no, you gotta change my life. Everybody knows my locker combination. Well, yeah, we told you not to give it to them. It's like you give away the key and everybody the key to your house. I mean, it's just, again, and these are important things, not because it's Meadows school or anything else. These are life lessons. These kids are going to college. And, we know high school kids are doing this, right? It's going to have high school kids that are doing the same thing. Is they're going away from you. Okay, they got to live in a dorm. They got to be responsible for their own things. And I've told the stories. So if I repeat myself a few years ago, and now my dad, my daughter's home from college break. So my freshman year, I think I'm trying to prepare them for everything for college. Well, as a freshman, her boyfriend at that time wound up getting appendicitis in emergency room in Georgetown. I joined the George Washington Medical Center, inner city, Washington, D.C. My daughter was in the emergency room, was in the waiting room the whole time. He was a kid from suburban, wealthy area of Chicago. She's from here in Vegas. Realizing, I talked to her, realized my kids had never been in the emergency room. I mean, my daughter didn't tore her knee, but surgeries. You go to your doctor, we go to urgent care, you go where we can visit parents. Now they're in the middle of the city. She came back, we gotta do something about healthcare in this country. I guess he's broke, not because he was hurt, because they wanted somebody who was shot. I said, these kids don't know. It's like, think about the things we think about, where they're going through, or where, all these things that we don't prepare them sometimes for what we can think of. Sometimes I never thought about, wow, you're going to see these types of things when you're in certain places that you have to deal with, that you don't know. Now she's commuting a little bit. From behind the metro the other day. It's like, it's like, welcome to the world we're in. I told him, you go look for a train like this? He goes, yeah, no, I come from New York City. You don't go to get the tracks. You gotta be smart. It's like things you have to learn. We live in Vegas, we live in gated communities. You have to realize that there's lots of life skills that we have to teach our kids to do.
So I think here, the school's providing for would that be something, because I think we're probably, high school is even worse, there's so much more on the data. So it becomes difficult to make control. You can't necessarily say, okay, we got a little electronics this time, but no, I need it for my home. I need to be able to do it. I need to get my school, blah, blah, blah. So it's the school's property that they're holding us, the school's settings on it. And is that the theory behind it?
Yes, but also I just want to re-emphasize, it's probably not going to happen next year, okay? Because it's going to take us, so I don't want anybody going, this is happening. Okay, we're at least a year away, but yes, but I can't speak for the other school. Again, our plan is, if it happens, it gets approved, that something that we came to 6th grade, instead of you running out and buying a computer for your child to have in middle school, you buy one. There will be a computer fee, and it'll probably be a 3-year fee, how I understand it. And then when they go from 8th grade to 9th grade, they keep that computer. In other words, then it becomes your computer. Now, controls and everything, how that would work in high school, I don't know. And that's something we want to talk to Carver about. It's really well versed in it.
Well, I think if you guys have all the programs that you lead on it, or but can limit access to the other stuff, then it's like, okay, if you're not for school, you need to do it right.
Adding Mr. Carver and Alex to our school have been giving us more resources in this area than we've ever had, and knowledge. So, it's been so nice learning from them ways, we kind of threw the problem at them and then said, okay, give us ideas to help us fix it. And Mr. Carver spent an entire faculty meeting with the middle school faculty, basically just going back and forth, saying, well, we could do different ideas, and actually really finding out what the teachers needed. So not just talking about programs, usage. So by whatever he eventually winds up proposing, it won't hinder, it will only help what the teachers and students need. So it's great that we have that resource, but I think my point really is going to be that we recognize the issue, and while for some of your children it's not going to address it, unless you have another one coming up eventually, some of you do, that those students will definitely, get the issue addressed. And we're going to continue to address it as we can. There's actually, I've seen, actually about the big box, I've seen these individual cases where the kids can unlock their phones in the morning. And I forgot what it's called. I'll look into that one too.
Like a little box, and they go to their advisor and put it in, it's locked.
Yeah. The biggest problem with that is for us, again, is how many kids 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, and getting the teacher to unlock it. But doesn't mean that's all we know. It means let's figure out if there's something we can do that works.
So my other question was on, I know maybe historically, since I got here, we purchased textbooks when we saw. And I found it to be either confusing or difficult between the list and between the website, what's recommended, what's required, and all the things. So is there any idea to somehow include that into the schools buying the books that they need based on classes, whether it's an increase or not? Because the whole purchasing the textbook and which one do you need, do you need a code for this one, or do I need to buy? I mean, so we ended up with these hard copies that no matter how we spend, we have so much money on.
They never get opened.
They never get used, and my kids can't reuse them the following year anyway, because either I didn't code or it's got my one kid's names in it. So there's no benefit to me as a parent for me purchasing the textbooks other than the stress and anxiety that I did not get whatever they're supposed to have.
Yeah. So several years ago, the school got out of the textbook business, which, by the way, is most schools have now. Most private schools have gotten out of the business. It's just it's so, and I don't see us getting back into it. But I will take your other thing is I do think we can do a better job on how to disseminate the information. I do, because to be honest, is I think Ron admits sometimes when we look at the list and where because there are too many hands in that pot. I think we need to try to separate it more because it comes from middle school and upper school somewhere together. And if we can separate that pot a little bit more and make it easier. We don't want to separate it so much where people like you and you. She is great now. She's coming up, so all of you have multiple kids in multiple divisions, so she's middle and upper. That's what the books have to go to different places. I want to try to make it a little distinction. But we can try to do a better job in making the list clearer. But I don't think any school wants to go back into that just as the MSBA got out of the closed business too. That's also not being critical, criticizing that. That's the same reason. It's just, you have to keep inventories and things like that. It just becomes a very cumbersome thing in this day and age.
And I think sometimes the list for you guys isn't necessarily the problem. And maybe it's the way it's shown on the website. Like it may be an optional on your list, but they might go on and it's required on the other. So they don't match up.
And here's the bigger problem is and again I'll talk to Linda, right? Linda Hines, who does that. I have to find out what she can look at and if she can at least make it where we can snack time. That's what it gets to. Anybody wants to play Gaga? Is that so let's try to do that. But I can't, it's easy for me when I was a parent because I could go in and see the list the same way you can see it. Now I can't. So I guess that there's a way that we can get administrative accounts so we can at least go and see that, and at least we can go in and double check. Ron, they're really efficient in that. If I give them the list, they will go in and double and triple check to make sure that if we say it's required on our list, it's required on the list. If we say it's optional, it's optional.
Yeah,
so
even the way they determine all the things, it serves for the class. It might be different, like 6th grade math, and you over there, it might say, not, but whatever. It doesn't match. So, or there's like, it's the website is very confusing.
Yeah, and one of the other reasons, and this is somewhat selfish for me, but I also told you, because one of the other reasons I wanted to look up ERPs, so we use the ERP data for math placement. And having it now, I could actually start planning like April classes for next year. We can do them in May, you don't get the results at the end of May. Well, the textbook lists come out, people start ordering books, but they're not because people don't understand that. And even though we try to explain to people, so that's one of the reasons is I could have the schedules done by then, so we books this, but now I don't. Right, we're finding more kids coming to our school, and we should actually be happy about this, because we're finding more kids are coming to us, especially from some of the local private schools here, and they've completed Algebra 1 already, they're in 6th grade, and they go into our Algebra 1 class, they don't know which end is up. You know, and it's really a scary thing. There was another school, I tell the story, I apologize, I know I like to tell stories. My younger daughter, she was a junior year taking pre-calculus. She had a friend who was on next to the neighbor, went to another private school here, who was a senior, who was in calculus. One night he came over, they sitting at our dining table doing homework. They were using the same textbook. My daughter was a chapter ahead of him. He was getting calculus credit from his high school. That was pre-calculus in our school. So it's not always all even. And we have, and by the way, we lose some kids. But I tell a parent, we still, and we do this in middle school now, is you're not on our normal. If you're not going to 7th grade, doing 3 algebra, you're telling us we have kids ahead, great. They're going to be tested by our school math quiz. And if they're not there, we're not moving them. And if you're not happy with that, then we're not your school. Okay, we're going to put the kid where they need to be. And that's, it's really important to us because we see on the other end, Mrs. Cobrice uses her own child as the example, you know? It's all positive. So Patrick's brilliant when it comes to math. She didn't push him into 18 levels of math. He's going to school. In fact, he's going to go to college. You guys have been to several colleges, all for engineering. Okay, you've got a perfect score with math. And she's so happy because she knows going to college, he's going to be so solid. You know, it's the concrete is all there. He's got 2nd year of high school calculus, going into college. You don't need more than that, I promise you. You're going to MIT, but you know what? You get to MIT, or make a linear algebra, you're going to go take calculus again. Because at MIT, you take calculus, it doesn't matter. So, you know, I say those kind of areas know what we're doing. And not me, those people know what we're doing. Anybody else? Alex has gotten up, which means that he's the tables over. I'm saying. Well, yes, we teachers still to hire. Mr. Gregerson makes those announcements. No, I don't. I'll ask him today. And by the way, just so you know, it's not usually done because Mr. Gregerson's trying to hide it. It's usually done at, no, I just want everybody to know that. It's usually done at respect for the teachers, especially the veteran teachers. We like them to say, what are you comfortable with? It's respect to some people who've been here for a long time. So I know some people sometimes feel that. It's just that so I wasn't accusing of that. No, that's not, we're going to find a replacement. You know, that's not the situation. It's just, you know, we've done what I've done, been around as long as I've been around. Guess what? You know, if you were leaving, it's emotional. And it's sometimes emotional for the kids. Some people don't want to deal with that for 3 or 4 months. You know, so. Yeah, I can tell you right now that in one area, we have 3. And it's funny, we advertise nationally, and we didn't even need to go to a national pool. We have 3 really solid, 2 local, one from Northern and one from Arizona, candidates. We've had people coming in to lessons. So you can probably figure out if you ask kids, okay, what classes have we had lessons done in? There's at least one who is actually coming in this week to do another lesson because he was liked so much by the other teachers. Part of my philosophy, I can only talk from middle school, unless the person I think is evil, is a cyclops or something else, I really like the teacher teachers in the Congo chair telling me this is the question. They have to work side by side every day. They share curriculum. They work together. I want them to be the ones who are telling me this is what I love. So the teachers are very involved in the process right now. So right now, I have two. One again that is retired, and one that decided to that's it. Because and by the way, so just we're hiring so many people. So it's pretty positive. It's all positive again. You remember I've been here 23 years, but I started 33 years ago. So some of the people I know for 30 years. So we're pretty close. Anything else? I apologize that I sat. I just thought it was more cozy. Again, thank you, Ms. Larry, for bringing us snack. Please take one on the way.